fellow lovers of the liminal and the weird, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. Today I'm going to be going over the titles in my science fiction library that begin with the letter H. But I do have to start with a G that I forgot last time that I was very sad that I forgot about, and that is Charlotte Perkins Gilman's Herland, which is an early utopian novel from the author, of course, of The Yellow Wallpaper. Absolutely fantastic. So I forgot that in G, and I'm glad that I was able to bring that up. Okay, on to H. I'm going to start with my hardcovers in H, and I'm going to start with Joe Haldeman. I know that Joe Haldeman is pretty famous. I haven't read anything by him, but this one really truly interests me. It's called Mind Bridge, and it seems like it might be right up my alley. Great cover on this one. This, of course, is a book club edition. Yeah, so this is something that I'm sure you'll see on the channel eventually. Another Joe Haldeman, All My Sins Remembered. Again, this is a book club edition with an incredible cover. I think that I'm going to like this guy. I really do. Just from his covers, it seems like I'm really going to enjoy him. But even here on the front flap, imagine gorilla-shaped bismuth junkies who stack their dead ancestors like cordwood in the living room. Gentle souls who can kill with a touch or a thought. Yeah, this sounds like it's going to be really weird and really enjoyable, so I'm excited to give Joe Haldeman a check. If you've read any of his stuff, let me know what you think of him. My last Joe Haldeman is Dealing in Futures, which is a collection of short stories from him. Book club edition. Great title. I love that title, Dealing in Futures. And maybe I'll start here and read a couple of his short stories and then jump onto these novels. We'll see, but I'm excited to have this. On to another very important sci-fi writer. We have Robert Heinlein. The Past Through Tomorrow, future history stories. I have read some Heinlein. Of course, well, we'll talk about that with the next one. This is a book club edition, and it's very thick, but has a lot of his short stories, so this seemed like the collection I needed to have all of his short... Yeah, The Roads Must Roll is in here. I've done a video on that specific short story. So, yeah, there we go. Some Heinlein. More Heinlein is my copy of Stranger in a Strange Land. This is in really good condition. It is a book club edition, but that is the cover of what the first looks like, so I'm very happy to have it. This is the other Heinlein that I've read, of course. And the last part of this, I believe, takes place in the American Southwest. Another book that takes place in the American Southwest. I hope that's true. I always confuse this book with Brave New World. Yeah, I think I might be confusing this with Brave New World. I'm sorry. This does not end in the Southwest. I'm confusing that with Brave New World. I think Brave New World is the one where they end up in the Southwest. Also an H author that we'll be seeing a little bit later. Anyway, Stranger in a Strange Land. Really, really glad to own this one. And here we are. Brave New World. Yep, this is the one that they go to the Southwest and then return to this Brave New World. This is a book club edition. I have no idea. I don't know. This isn't what the first looks like at all. This is a later edition, and I have the book club of that later edition. But it's a cool old cover. I'm glad to have it. Not my favorite of science fiction novels, but I did enjoy it. So that is all my hardbacks for now. We're going to get in some other hardbacks a little bit later, but for now we're going to move on to paperbacks. And there's a lot of writers in here that I'm not really familiar with, so this should be a lot of fun. We should see a lot of stuff that isn't as popular, I guess, as the other stuff. And we'll start with Austin Hall, The Spot of Life. Two worlds in one orbit. Oh, it's got this kind of three-body problem going on. The doorway between the worlds was blocked. The mysterious room, the place where two things could occupy the same space at the same time, had been locked forever, or so its scientist guardian thought. Love it. Some crazy science fiction stuff right there. I'm looking forward to reading this one. Wow, this is from 1932. It was originally published in 1932 as a serial in Argosy Weekly. Very cool. Does not say who the front cover artist is, of course. I have a book here by Joe Hamill called Limbo. The tagline on this is, "She is young, she is helpless, and she is chosen." And it looks like she might be a computer. A secret war of the world's great powers is being fought in the far corners of the human mind. Connie Keenan is a beautiful New York call girl who has developed an operable brain tumor. Dr. Phil Carlino calls it a routine procedure, nothing to worry about. Then, just before surgery, Dr. Carlino is ordered to transfer Connie into the hands of Dr. Elias Nunn. Yeah, it looks like he put something in her brain. I don't know. There you go. Joe Hamill. Limbo. I've never read it. If anybody's read it, let me know what it's about. Okay, the celebrated novel by Alan Harrington. The Revelations of Dr. Modesto. This one's in really good condition. I don't know what it is. Follow Hal Hingham on his journey into centralism as he explores the revelations of Dr. Modesto. Yeah, it looks philosophical and strange and kind of funny, and I don't know. Yeah, let me know if this is something you think I'd like, if you've read it before, in the comments. Of course, I just did a video on this a couple days back. This is M. John Harrison, The Pastel City. Yeah, M. John, and this is the first of the Viraconium novels. I hope I pronounced that right. So it's kind of a far future, dying Earth, medieval times, but having access to 20th century technology. It looks really interesting. It looks like it would go on the shelf for me with Gene Wolfe and Jack Vance. And I know he was very inspired by Jack Vance's Dying Earth when he wrote this. I'm excited. I've got to check out Jack Vance, Dying Earth. So I hope to read this. It looks very interesting. I'm going to give it a read and see what I think. So you'll probably see this on the channel one day. City at World's End. Science fiction by Edmund Hamilton. Now, I know I've heard Edmund Hamilton's name a lot. Don't think I've ever read anything by him, but it looks like this is... Oh no, this isn't post-apocalyptic. It just has kind of a post-apocalyptic looking cover. In one split second, they were hurled across time in a world a million years away. Yeah, that's super cool. It looks just like kind of early mind-bending literature. This is a Crest book, and it came out in 1951. Sorry, I had to translate Roman numerals. Yeah, it came out in 1951. Looks super cool. I really like the art on the front. Of course, they're not going to tell us who did the art in the front. But yeah, that looks interesting. Harry Harrison, The Technicolor Time Machine. Got kind of an inappropriate cover there. Sorry about that. I wonder who did this art. This is a new English library copy. First edition was first published in Great Britain in 1967. Does not say who does the front cover, but it is a wraparound cover. I like those wraparound covers. So, Harry Harrison, of course, did the Stainless Steel Rat series, which, I'll be honest, doesn't seem like it's up my alley. It seems more kind of adventure pulp. I don't know. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. But he did write Make Room, which I don't have a copy of, but I do hope to read someday, especially because we can do a theme week on it, and Jason can do Soylent Green. The Make Room is what the movie Soylent Green is based on. But yeah, I kept this because it looks interesting, some kind of time machine thing. So there you go, Harry Harrison. I know I've had all the Stainless Steel Rat series, but I didn't keep it because, like I said, it just didn't look interesting to me. It didn't look like something that I would go for. John Hartridge, Binary Divine. This is from the Playboy Press. Playboy did a lot of interesting science fiction stories. Michael Faraday was the only living human who knew the real story of the lost month, a month when millions of people mysteriously perished, and he was determined to carry that secret to his grave. I mean, that sounds super cool. I'm excited to check this one out. It's just a wild cover and a wild premise, so that'll be one that I'm sure. Ooh, look at that! I'm sure you will see on the channel eventually. It's the front cover. That's funny. They have a whole section here talking about the rabbit head design that's on this front cover, but they don't tell me who the front cover... Oh, yes, they do. Oh, good. Good job, Playboy. Front cover illustration is by Paul Davis. The back cover photo is Dwight Hooker. So, good job for them for listing all the artists that were a part of this interesting-looking book. So here is a book by H.F. Hurd called Doppelgangers. I kept this because, well, I like doppelgangers. I think that's cool. It looks like some kind of cloning stuff. The world of 1997, is held in bondage by two tyrannical masters. One, a fabulous despot of the underworld, and the other, the equally treacherous tyrant of the upper world. Yeah, looks pretty wild. An early Ace book. 1947, and the cover art is by Jerome Podwell. Moving on, here are my Robert A. Heinlein paperbacks. I, of course, have Starship Troopers. Never read this one, but it's funny. My brother-in-law, you've seen him on the channel way earlier. He did one video with Jason about Doctor Who. He's my sister-in-law's brother. I guess that makes him my brother-in-law. I don't know. Anyway, he's a good buddy of mine. And he was in the movie version of this, the Paul Verhoeven movie. He can actually pause at the end of the movie and show you his face as one of the soldiers celebrating after the big climactic ending. It's very cool. But anyway, I have not read the book yet, but it is on my list, so one day I'll do this. I also have a book by Heinlein called Glory Road. It's pretty cool looking. And then one of my favorite science fiction covers of all time, The Worlds of Robert A. Heinlein. I'm pretty sure this will be the thumbnail for the video. We'll see. So cool. Anyway, this is a bunch of Heinlein short stories. I might have them all in that hardback book. I have no idea. But I have to have it for that cover. Just so cool. Cover art by Ed Volgursky. Ed Volgursky did this cover art. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that name right. So yeah, good job. That is incredible cover art. One of my favorite pieces of sci-fi cover art ever. Okay. Podcane of Mars. I love this. This is a woman running away from an exploding sci-fi building with a ray gun in her hand and a weird furry winged monkey looking creature in her other hand. But you know what's interesting about this is if you're familiar with the Gothic romances that were big through the 60s and 70s, with all the women on the front covers running away from old mansions and all that, this is like the exact sci-fi version of this. And that's why I keep this book, is because I love this cover. This is the science fiction version of the Gothic romance cover. All the way down to running from the building and all that. It's great. This is an Avon book, and I cannot tell who did that front cover, but I wouldn't be surprised if that person also did a bunch of covers for Gothic romances. Okay, on to Zena Henderson. I actually have 2 copies of the next book. I really love Zena Henderson. She was a teacher here in the Southwest, I believe in Arizona. And she came at science fiction from a different perspective than a lot of other Golden Age writers did. She was I think, preschool or elementary, kindergarten teacher. And so there's a lot of things that happen to children in her books or told from the point of view of children. And her short story collection is called The Anything Box. And I just happened upon this at an estate sale, and I was like, oh, I got to read that weird stuff. And the first story in this is incredible. I think that Vintage Sci-Fi has reviewed this book. There's also a short story in here that eventually was... It wasn't the Tales from the Crypt or Tales from the Dark Side. What was the other big anthology TV show? Anyway, Hush, another story in here where a kid creates an imaginary creature that kills anything that makes a noise, was done on this anthology show. Yeah, so I have 2 copies of the Anything box, 2 different covers. I think Vintage Sci-Fi, maybe it wasn't Vintage Sci-Fi, maybe it was. I think he talked about the fact that this is, yeah, it was him. Talked about that she's like a science fiction Stephen King, and I think that is incredibly accurate. That is a spot on way to talk about it. So this is Hector Garrido did this cover. Hope I didn't mispronounce that. And this cover, these are both Avon books. Also Hector Garrido. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. So that's interesting. Same illustrator did 2 different covers, and I can tell from these covers that they're specifically from this story. So that's interesting. Anyway, if you want to read an incredible Golden Age female science fiction writer from the Southwest, check out Zena Henderson. She really is, as Vintage Sci-Fi said, kind of a sci-fi Stephen King. Really incredible. And some more Zena Henderson. This is the 2 books that make up The People, which is what she's most famous for. Pilgrimage is the book of the people, and The People No Different Earth is the second book of the people. Unfortunately, this one doesn't tell us who the cover artist is, and neither does this one. But they seem to be drawn specifically for these stories. I'm going to admit I haven't read these yet. I've only read her short story collection, but I do plan to read these eventually. I think these fall under the almost pastoral science fiction. I know that that's weird because those 2 things seem to not really go well together, but I think that they are slightly similar to some of Clifford Simak's work. That pastoral science fiction. With those 3 books, I thought I had her complete collection, but I eventually found one called Holding Wonder. And I think with this one, I've completed my Zena Henderson collection. This is not a book of the people. This is a novel. No, this is a short story collection, another short story collection. Oh, she has something called Through a Glass Darkly. It's taken from the Sheridan Le Fanu short story collection.